Hi, I'm singer-songwriter and actor Robert Avayanet, and you're tuning into Deeper Than Music.
Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song is a greater story.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say hello to everybody listening to us on the many platforms that we're podcasting on: iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. And also check us out on the newly launched Nius Media Roku channel. That's NIOUS Media Roku channel. Today we have a very special guest. This is by way of, actually I had the honor of meeting before all this COVID-19 stuff happened. The last time I remember actually going out and traveling, I traveled to Los Angeles to attend Sue Wong's Oscar Gala and Hollywood, and I met Venus DeMilo Thomas, and she introduced me to another person that was there. I didn't meet at the Oscar Gala, but a previous guest on the show, Devani Penn. So through Devani, we actually have Aizhan, and just a phenomenal actress, singer, and she's a lawyer from Kazakhstan, which is pretty impressive. She's also has been in many shows and plays, and she's also modeled as well, and she knows jiu-jitsu. So we're going to talk to her about her career and how she's been able to do everything she's done. I mean, it seems like that she's can do anything. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have Aizhan here on Deeper Than Music Radio. Aizhan, how you doing?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. Like, I'm just when I saw your
what an intro, by the way.
I'm glad you like the intro because you do so much, and I wanted to also say that you were like Miss Third for Miss Global, and you were also first one up for Miss Eurasia.
Yeah.
So wow. So I guess my first question is like, growing up in Kazakhstan, did you know that you wanted to do all these wonderful things in your life?
Acting, no way. Like when I was growing up, my dream was to become a president of my country.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was everything like I wanted and strive for. And kind of art came later into my life through dance, I would say, because I've been dancing since I was 8, but it was just my passion. I never thought of it anything have to do with my profession. I never thought of it. Mm-hmm. But through that, I kind of started to fall in love with art. My art side, internal. And later on, when I first got introduced into acting, I really fell in love with the process of creating the character and developing the heroine that I'm working on, researching on the story, writing her background, her history, her personal history. That was just amazing.
Wow. And so how is it like, as far as in Kazakhstan, like as entertainment and the culture, how is it similar and different than here in the United States?
How is it similar and different? I think the similarity, they use the same equipment. That's the similarity of it. The culture is very different. The way people work is different. People here are very passionate about what they do as well. Yeah. But there, people are almost like, if they are artists, that's all they do. That's their life. Almost they forget about everything else that comes with it. You know, they don't think about money. They don't care about the legalities of it, the administrative factors of it. They are so deep into the moment, into the art, and that's all they care about. I think that's like the main difference.
Okay.
And I mean, it's like when I was filming my historical movie there, I've been filming it for almost half a year there. We were switching locations, and sometimes we were shooting in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of the crew had to work in like crazy conditions, and it's fascinating. No one ever complained about anything.
Oh wow.
Everyone was always in love, so in sync with the process, so in love with the process. And when you look at the final product, at the final cut of our film, you know that this is the result of the work of like 700 people that were involved in the production of this film, pre-production, production of this, and post of this film. And that's really the outpouring of their love, like pure love, without any distractions.
Because when I think of Eurasia, you think of like, you have Russia, you have China, Mongolia, you have Kazakhstan. So it's kind of like it's like not Europe, but it's like Russian and then Asian blended together. So I would definitely imagine that the culture is very different. Like for me, for instance, we were talking earlier, like I go to Beijing and Shanghai twice a year. And one thing for me that kind of stood out, like I remember being in the airport flying here from Dallas, and before I boarded the plane, like I saw somebody with a Nas Biggie Smalls shirt, like a whole hip hop shirt. And then I remember when I went to the Great Wall, a lot of people were wearing like Mickey Mouse and American stuff, and Starbucks is real big there. And something for somebody that hasn't, like, before my job at American Airlines, I've never really been to Asia, with the exception of like 2000 when I was in the military back in 2000. But I noticed that the people were really, really laid back, and you could kind of tell the differences and similarities. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, I have a sister who's 9 years older than me, and our childhoods differed so much, as if we have like 20 years in between us at least, because we grew up in two different countries. Like, she grew up in Soviet Union, I grew up when Kazakhstan became independent. And when I was growing up, when I was born, actually, that's when the borders opened up and we got flooded with the Western culture. So my whole generation grew up being obsessed with American culture, because it was so fresh, it was so new. We got flooded with it exactly at that time.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating.
So you started off dancing, and then I see that you had a prominent. So how do you like becoming a lawyer, and then you're so prominent that you received the state award from the president? So in Kazakhstan, you can go to law school right after high school. It's not like here. You have to have an undergrad degree first, right? So after I finished my high school, and I finished a little early, I went to law school, and my major was international law. Wow!
And after my second year, I started interning at the biggest oil and gas company in Kazakhstan. And then after my internship was like ended, they offered me like a paid internship position. So for the next 2 years of my university, for the next year, I interned part-time there after my school, like, in the afternoon, whatever, after my classes. And then my final year in university, they offered me a full position. I haven't still got my degree, but I had like a full-time paid intern position at company. And so I didn't go to school at all. my fourth year, my last year.
Wow.
And because I was working, I only would come to the exams and my, and then after I got my degree, they just hired me. They offered me a position and in-house lawyer. I was an in-house lawyer in the international contract department. And then from that, it started. It went on, and I made a very successful career. Actually, the funny thing, I always got promoted when I would decide to like go study. And they would offer me something that I'm like, oh, okay. Like I got accepted to Columbia.
Wow.
And I got a full scholarship, and then I got offered like a better position at work. I'm like, oh. And I kept choosing work for like 5 years until I finally decided that I want to try something else with my life. But yeah, it was a great time. It was an amazing experience, and it did help me with my acting career because, I think actors thrive most on their like having like diverse life. That's what really gives you the options, the inspiration to really get inspired from and get your emotions based on your real life situations.
So you say that like when you're an actor, you can pull things from life to like to use for a role. That makes sense. And I imagine being a lawyer in international things that you've seen a lot in that side of your career.
Oh yeah, and I traveled a lot. For work too. I represented Kazakhstan in this international arbitration in Stockholm Chamber of Commerce, and like crazy experiences like this will never happen, in actor's life.
Yeah.
But that was my life, and that's like experience I got, and that's something that helps me when I work on certain characters. And create certain characters and their backstory.
And you must have been a phenomenal lawyer to receive the state award from the president. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. I did. I did win a procedural hearing of a huge case with $3 billion international arbitration case. Wow. I was very young. It was crazy how I got appointed in charge of that case because Kazakhstan got sued by investors, and and it's the government moves very very slow here as well. The red tape and everything. It takes a long time for government to move and react, and because of all these delays, by the time it got to our department, it was so late. It was already the deadline, like everything got passed, so we had zero time to hire like a law firm to represent us or anything. And my boss was like, well, you studied international arbitration.
So here you
like,
go.
What? It's on you, whatever. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, thank God I had friends at like a law firm, like big American law firm. They did help me with research a lot. That helped me write my speech and everything. And and I went, and then I remember on the way, everything was so like I had so little time, so I had to research on the other lawyer on the way. And I remember I looked up that one who reps the opponent, and it was like one of the biggest American law firms, and the managing partner was flying to the actual hearing to Stockholm. And then I Googled his name, and he was like a former congressman. I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed.
Oh man.
OMG. But yeah, and here I am. I was like 24-year-old.
Wow.
ponytail showing up to this hearing. All the arbitrators are like 60 to 80 years old. The tribunal. And I'm like, hello. And yeah, I had to. I made my whole case, and then I remember my last sentence was something like, I don't want the whole country to suffer because of my personal lack of experience.
Wow.
And then I made this, this eyes, the puppy eyes. So it worked.
Yeah. So that basically, we know that you work well under pressure, right?
Yeah, you see, and that's how you get a state medal, a state award from the president.
Wow. And
puppy eyes.
Well deserved. So in that time, I also see that you won Miss Tourism in Kazakhstan as well.
Yeah. I was 17. It was a long time ago. It was a fun pageant. It was in Kazakhstan. Oh my God, I don't even. Yeah, it was like a regular pageant, but it was all around tourism. It was a pretty new one that they made to promote tourism in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the goal of that whole pageant, and so they had like pageants in each city, and then they had the Kazakhstan one. And that was very interesting one because every girl had to learn how to promote her country and how talk about something that's very interesting about Kazakhstan and know the historical facts, but also be able to present them in an interesting way that could attract more people to come to Kazakhstan to visit.
And then around that time, so was this before becoming a lawyer? Because I'm imagining like you're doing all this stuff. All it was like being first runner-up for Miss Eurasia and then third runner-up for Miss Global.
Oh yeah, that was before. I was 17.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was way before. I was in law school already. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm like, because I'm looking at this, I'm like, when does Aizhan have spare time, or does she have spare time doing all this stuff?
Yeah, I started law school when I was 16.
Wow.
It's in Kazakhstan, most of people, when I went to high school, finished high school at 17. So I finished it at 15, but that year I turned 16. But right now, most of people finish it at 18 because they added one more year.
So then when you decided I'm done being a lawyer, is that when you took the scholarship for UCLA and moved to Los Angeles?
Yes, almost that. Because I did start to think about that I want to try the acting career. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about the ways how I can do it. And I thought that if I try it, I want to try it, in the entertainment capital of the world.
Yeah.
Why not? I was like, okay, if I start trying acting career in Kazakhstan after my whole legal career behind me, that would look weird. I gotta go and try it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then I thought about Los Angeles, of course. And then I started to think about ways how I can do it, a smarter way to do it. And I knew I would not get a scholarship for acting, but I knew I would for lawyering probably. And I was like, well, I was supposed to go study, earlier, but I chose career. Why not, continue study now and try the acting career at the same time. So that's how I started applying to law schools in the States, and I got accepted to NYU, UCLA, USC, Pepperdine, and I was choosing between NYU and UCLA, and then I was like, Los Angeles, duh. And so I chose UCLA, and then while I was at UCLA, they have this amazing program that when you are a student, studying for a degree, at any school at UCLA, you are allowed to take electives from any other school at UCLA.
Oh, wow.
So I took a lot of electives from UCLA TFT that you otherwise would never get access to. So it was really amazing.
Wow. So while going to school, and then that's when you decided to get into the arts and get into acting.
Yeah. That's how I got my first agent, and then I started moving towards acting right after I finished law school.
Wow. And I see that you were in the female cast adaptation of Reservoir Dogs.
Oh my God, that was my favorite non-musical stage show that I've done. It was so fun. I played Miss White. And the whole cast were women. Our director was a female too. It was so much fun working on it, creating it, and then performing it for, I think we performed it for like 10 weeks or something.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so much fun. And every time, like, the beauty of having a show, like a live show that runs for a long time, is you get to explore, and each time you perform, like first 2 or 3 times you try to you perfect everything you do, and then you play, and then you start playing around it. You're like, every time you perform, you do something different because you feel different that day. You wake up, you feel different on certain days sometimes, and just your mood changes or whatever, and you just perform differently. That affects you as a performer as well. And that's the beauty of having a running show, and that's what I loved about it.
And so you did a lot of like stage and theater, and then also operas. And how did you like that experience? I
did not do operas, but I did musical theater, which I loved. I think my favorite was a chorus line.
Okay.
In terms of the character work, again, like Cassie, I played Cassie, and she's just fascinating. So multi-dimensional, and then you have to. It's one of the hardest show on Broadway in the history of Broadway, because you have to, very challenging, because you have to be a really great actor, you have to be an amazing dancer, and you also have to sing really well.
Wow, you're just like a triple threat. And you're like, after the case that you got the President's Award, like there's nothing you can do, right? So you can take on anything. So, was it Tomiris? Sorry, Tomiris.
Yeah.
So how did you get that role? Like, what was the process like?
So, Tomiris is my ancestor. It's an ancestor of all Kazakh people. So it's she was the queen of Massagets. That was one of the Scythian tribes on the territory of modern Kazakhstan that lived 2,500 years ago. And she was the one who defeated Persian Empire at that time and killed Cyrus the Great. And I remember when I read about her for the first time when I was a child, about her, and then I started researching more, and I found this information about the other tribe called Samaras that mainly consisted of women. They were matriarchal. They had female armies, female warriors, and they were so skillful and like crazy and basically like violent. And they lived like Viking lifestyle, and they were women. They were the most conquerors tribe out of all Scythia. I was so
Deeper
fascinated.
Than Music Radio.
And I remember growing up, I was so sure, I was waiting. I was so sure that a movie about these badass women is going to come out like any day. And like year after year, I was waiting, and it was never made until I was an adult. And now finally they were casting it. And I remember my mom sent me the link that they were searching for the leads. And it was like international search that went for 4 months. They were searching for the leads of the film. Yeah, and there was an email where you can email your stuff if you cannot show up to the casting in person. And I was here in LA, so I couldn't. They had in-person auditions all over Kazakhstan and in some of the other Central Asian countries and in Russia.
Wow.
But if you cannot come to the audition, you have to email. So I emailed all my stuff, and then and then they invited me to the audition. And then there were a bunch of callbacks, and then there were screen tests and everything. And that's how I got the role.
So, I mean, it looks like you seem like the type of person, you take a challenge on and you embrace it and you make it happen. Because I see you had to learn the ancient Turkic language.
Oh God, yeah.
And then improve your horseback riding and sword fighting skills. And is that where you learned jujitsu as well?
No, jujitsu, no. So this, I knew how to sword fight before.
Oh, okay.
So that was something that I showed at the audition that they really liked. I knew how to ride horses, but I wasn't able to ride horses with no saddle, no stirrups, like fighting while you ride horse, shooting bow and arrows while you ride horse. All of that I learned in the training camp for the film.
Wow.
Obviously, but yeah. And I did most of my stunts in the film too, because I got so into the character. I got so I really wanted to try it myself. I really wanted to do these things myself. They're crazy things. Everyone's favorite is the scene where I jump off the horse while the horse is running, and I do a spin in the air before I land. And I remember when they told me they told me about the scene. My first day at the training camp, I was like, "You crazy, right?" And then I did it. I learned how to do it, and I did it. And then there's the other scene. I remember they told me, okay, there's this other scene. So the horse is running, not too fast, but kind of fast, and you're hanging on the side of the horse. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm doing what? Well, you're hanging on the side of the horse while the horse is running, not too fast, but kind of fast. And then you're shooting bow and arrows backwards. I'm like, what?
Wow.
There is absolutely no way I'm going to do this. And then I did it too. That was the scariest stunt that I've done. But the funniest thing is that everyone remembered my jumping off the horse, and no one really remembers this, which was really, really hard to do, actually.
Oh, and I could totally imagine. And man, so I want to circle back, in between being a lawyer, Ms. Torres, when did you learn jujitsu and sword fighting? Was that early?
So yeah, sword fighting, it was an interesting story. I got cast for film here in LA. I really loved the script. It was sort of a mix of Japanese anime and Kill Bill style, and I loved it.
Oh, okay.
And so we started training. Started training swords. There was a lot of swords. My particular character was supposed to fight with 2 swords, and do crazy things with those swords. And so I started training, but then, probably after 1 month into training, they changed the script a lot, specifically for my character, because they're client change or something. So they now got bought by a Prime Cable network. I just can't name names. So they got bought by Prime Cable, and now they added a lot of explicit scenes and everything for my character. My character was one of the leads, but she got all of that, all the nudity, so much nudity and sex scenes and everything. I'm like, I can't do this. This is crazy. And but while I was thinking, I was still training, and then when I talked to them, we tried to like negotiate and see, and it didn't work. So I had to leave the project. But the amazing thing is that I learned sword fighting, and then the audition for this historical drama came up. So it was crazy. If I did that film, I would have never got this role. And or if I didn't train, maybe I would have never got the role too, because I was amazing with swords.
So basically that role that you didn't get, it prepared you for something even bigger. Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy how life works. Because I was so sad that it didn't work out, I remember. And then this pops up. And I'm prepared all of a sudden.
That's pretty awesome, because they say, like, another door closes when the door closes, another one opens. So for Tomiris, how long did I imagine you'd have to stay in Kazakhstan or in the area for a long amount of time to film the series?
Yeah, it was a film. It was for almost half a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was a half a year, not almost. February through July, and then I had to come back in September for reshoots, and then again later on for ADR. So yeah, it was a long time.
And it's pretty cool because I know it was selected or nominated for like a Golden Globe, or considered for a 77th Golden Globe.
It was, it was an official selection. The HFP loved our film. They did an amazing article about our film. We had a record number of HFP members showing up to the screening, which was amazing. It was great. I really hope after this quarantine is over, we will come out theatrically here in the States.
That would be awesome. Like, actually, I'm like trying to look more information up. I definitely want to watch it. I hope so too. I know that unfortunately with the coronavirus, it put a lot of things on hold, a lot of projects. So I got my fingers crossed for you, because man, I'm excited to see it.
Thank you.
So throughout your career, I mean, I'm gonna say you're officially the first badass person we've had on my show, because you do it all. So, like, because I want to ask you, like, what has been your challenges? But it's like you've done it all. But I want to ask, like, what has been your biggest challenge throughout your career?
My biggest challenge, oh God, that was I think that was when I switched gears in my life, like completely. That was the biggest challenge, because I put so much work, so much effort into my career. Mm-hmm. And I did succeed, but obviously, like, I sacrificed a lot for that career, because I really loved what I was doing. I was passionate about it, and I saw results that would have, inspired me and such. And there were times that I was at work when I was a lawyer, that I worked at like 2 a.m. at the office. It was completely normal for me, because I had to do what I had to do. And then when I finally thought, I think this phase of my life is over.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a change. And that was the most, yeah.
Because I know you said, like, you had opportunities while you were a lawyer but they kept giving you raises, or they kept giving you an incentive to say, right? And it's hard to leave something that's comfortable, right? So I could definitely
exactly. Yeah. Like, and that, and combined with a lot of other things, that I pretty much left my home, left my country, and moved someplace else where, like, I have nothing, literally nothing, no friends, no family, no home. Nothing. Like, I left everything behind, all my comfortable life behind, everything that I worked so hard for behind, basically. And that was the most challenging moment of my life. And obviously my parents were not happy with it. Like, none of my family was happy with it. No one was understanding what was happening, because everyone was so proud of me at that time. And all of a sudden I became a disappointment. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most challenging moment of my life.
And then on the flip side, like, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your career so far?
I think that was definitely when I saw Tomiris. Just the moment of, this film is finally out. We are finally telling this story to the world. This was our ancestor, a woman that lived 2,500 years ago.
Wow.
And at the time, she was able to unite all these tribes that were fighting in between each other constantly. She was able to unite all of them under her leadership and defeat the most powerful empire in the world at the time, which was Persian Empire. And for me, like, my whole life, I was fascinated by this story, and it's finally getting told to the world. That was my most proud moment. And it's still ahead, because we haven't released it theatrically to the world yet. So, but when we first saw it, I was like, oh my God, yes, it's finally out. They will know the story.
And then it's like, you've done all this training, you've done all your own stunts, and then, yeah, you get to see that body of work. I know that had to be like a moment.
Yeah, that was like, every day on the set, to be honest, was such an amazing experience, because it is incredible to dive deep into way back in the day and try to understand how they lived, their lifestyle, what could they think of on a daily basis. And but because I've been obsessing about this story my whole life, and actually at some point I got so angry that this movie is not made, I was actually writing my own script.
Wow.
I did write my own script. I still want to produce it one day. But it's about the same story, about the same historical events, you know?
Yeah.
My script was completely different from how this script was written. But still, the time that I spent on developing those characters and thinking about their lifestyle and everything when I was writing my script, that helped me a lot, obviously, when I actually got to shoot the film, because I already had this character lined up in my head, you know.
Wow. No, and again, as with all my great interviews, we're 7 minutes left, but I wanted to my last two questions. So, say there's somebody in the world that has followed your career. I mean, your very diverse and accomplished career. What do you say to somebody that aspires to be like you? What advice would you give them?
Oh my God. What advice would I give? I would say, well, that sounds very, but follow your heart. It's very basic, but it is what it is. Like, if you feel a certain way, if you really want something, you should just go for it. And it doesn't matter where you stand in life, what are you doing, whether you're successful, what you do, whether you're not. If you really want something, you should just go for it. And especially like right now, the lifestyle we live right now are so diverse. Like if like, let's say 10 years ago, you had to be one thing.
Yeah.
Like you have to be great in just one thing and that's it. But right now, like the reality of what we live in, you can be anything and everything and all at the same time if you want to. So I just feel like take advantage of this and just try everything you want, you know? And it doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, how good you are. Just try it. If it doesn't work, you know, at least you tried, you know?
Yeah. And last question, shameless promotion time, Aizhan. Where can people find you? What do you have in the works after this whole COVID thing cures itself? Shameless promotion time for you.
Well, I'm I'm on social media right now, like all of us, stuck in our houses, right? So you can follow me on Instagram at Aizhan LighG or Facebook or TikTok. It's all my name. No other letters, no other numbers. It's Aizhan LighG.
There we go.
And follow my IMDb if you want to see more. If you want to see photos from the actual set of our film Tomiris, they are on my page and on Tomiris's page on IMDb. And if you want to see the trailer of the film, it's also out there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have it. You heard it here. Our official first badass, Aizhan, his interview about life as a lawyer, winning the President's Award, runner-up for Miss Global, Miss Eurasia. Aizhan, thank you for taking the time to just tell us your wonderful and great story. And I got my fingers crossed. Once all of this is cured, Tomiris, we got to have a global theatrical debut to see you perform your own stunts and hear about this great story of your home country's history.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Anytime. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Marquivas and Aizhan, and we're signing off for another great episode of Deeper Than Music.
Awesome. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.